Hey, all, you made it. Episode 1. Here we go. So, as you can see by the opening, that we actually are calling this a Republican problem. And there is a Republican problem. I myself, being fairly conservative, have recognized there are a lot of faults going on with the Republicans and those of us right of center. So, today's episode will be a little different. It's going to be probably the easiest way to start off. So I figured I'd actually do this in letter form. And bear with me because, this might be a few minutes. So it's a letter from me to the Republicans. All right, you guys, here we go. Bear with me. Dear Republicans, we have a problem, a you problem. In my 22 years of actual observation of politics in this country, I've noticed several things. But before we go there, let me clarify my position so you understand where I'm coming from. Myself, I consider a classical liberal with conservative values. I am in fact a registered Republican. But also, all those years ago, as a child, I bought into the 80s culture that glorified the wealthy and how the Republican Party stood for success. Alex B. Keaton was one of the greats. How every Thursday he'd actually go to battle with his tree-hugging hippie parents. I tell you, he was the man. In those days, I didn't understand the nuance or the differences between our two-party system. And I also grew up in a Catholic household, which made me a perfect conservative poster boy. My folks were Kennedy Democrats and Union supporters. They instilled strong moral values based in faith, and they also allowed for freedoms. Freedoms today's kids couldn't possibly fathom. And believe me, if we took advantage of those freedoms, we got disciplined. And the lessons I was taught. If it wasn't for those lessons, I wouldn't be who I am today. And for that, I do thank my parents. I 100% bought into the idea of America. Land of the free, home of the brave. Truth, justice, and the American way. I celebrated with all the Hulkamaniacs. As a real American hero, as I said my prayers and took my vitamins, and was always a good little Hulkster. I was definitely a product of the time. But through the years, I grew up politically. I found myself on the opposite side of the establishment more times than not, and asking the big American question. Why don't we just follow the Constitution? Everything we need is written right there in its words, especially just in the first few. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Is it really that hard? It's too bad it is. But anyway, through the course of our years here, we were blessed enough to live in such a great country. Why is it that we can't live by these words? This is the greatest country in human history. No other country throughout time has offered such opportunity to mankind. As a place, if we just lived by those words put to paper 246 years ago, who knows where we'd be today? Yes, this country has its historical faults. All countries do. But the inalienable rights that we possess and that are protected, but not protected in any other country. There is no place on earth where we actually can exercise the rights that we do. But we have individuals here at home and across the world that would love to see us fail. And it's too bad. We are failing. And we're failing each other. All right, kids, almost there. A couple more pages. Thanks for bearing with me and sticking around this long. Anyway, back to the letter. Long ago, one of our greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, once said, A house divided cannot stand. And those words still hold true today. But unfortunately, our house is divided. It's too bad. The right and the left, along with social media and the talking heads of the MSM, these entities have created bubbles of political bias that have gotten the regular person sucked into it. The media consistently framing stories and leaving out important context to push out their desired narratives and literally altering the facts that get consumed by the casual viewer. Years ago, we all could turn on the TV and watch the news, and we trusted it. Not only the reports, but the reporters themselves. We could tune into specific networks just to hear what Dan Rather, Ted Koppel, or even Dr. Joyce Brothers had to say. Today, it's all talking heads and opinions. And unfortunately, the casual viewer takes these opinions as actual news. I tell you, how is this a Republican problem, you're asking? The problem is the messaging and the willingness to push back. And those that do seem to push back are the ultra far right or the nut jobs that are so far off base, you can't take them seriously. Right now, we're in the process of finishing up the vote counts for our midterms. Maybe by the time this goes up, it'll all be done. And we'll know which team will know wherever everything's fallen. Who knows? Who could be in control? Republicans on the Senate? Are they in the Congress? We'll find out, hopefully, in the next day, minute. But it's just too bad. It's just where we are as a society right now. But anyway, for these midterms, though, the Republicans were expecting a big red wave, and it was more like a small splash. Republicans. Honestly, you got to get your heads out of your butts. Yeah, it's amazing. Get your heads out of your butts. Every cycle, you ask, how does the left keep winning? They're cheating. They're fixing the votes. They're counting the vote. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're doing it legally. You're just being out-hustled. You're being outmaneuvered. I mean, see, this is the problem with the Republican Party. At least the left is willing to put the work in to actually go out and get the vote. They'll canvass, registration drives. In order to win, you have to gain the votes you're not getting. And so how do you do that, Republicans? It's not that complicated. Campaign where the voters are. You have to campaign in the urban areas. Makes me sick. But anyway, you Republicans are probably going to say, but Tony, Republicans can never win in the urban areas. Democrats always win because they cater to the urban voter. Okay, so what? Think about the reasoning. Think about the typical conservative seriously, think about the typical conservative family. What do they want? We want low taxes, a great education for our children, go to church on Sundays, live in safe neighborhoods, get good jobs with a great wage, living wage. And of course, the opportunity to advance. We want a better life for our families. And here's the best one. Not be hassled by our government. Guess what? You take that message to the population centers, to the urban areas. Take the receipts. Show them. Actually campaign there. You will be surprised when you go into these areas. You'll actually see that the urban families want the same thing as the conservative families. So the big problem, Republicans, is your messaging and your fear of actually campaigning in the urban areas. You got to get over it. So you see, Republicans, the problem is you. It really is. Get off your butts, canvass. Start voter registration. Do it. Start the drives. You have to do it. It's the only way you're ever going to win another election. It's the only way. What are you going to say? What? The media is going to tell everyone on TV what? The same thing they always do. Can't vote for the Republicans. So they're the bad guys. They're not the same party they used to be. The party switched. Really? Neither party has been the same party from the beginning. They've evolved so much and are nowhere near how they were when they began. It's amazing. I don't know. There hasn't been a two-party system since the early 70s. There's only been, honestly, it's more like the single party and then the rest of us. You have the uniparty, which is all your elites on both sides of the aisle. And then you have all your, the faces that they shove in front of the TVs to give out their, hopes and dreams for us little people. That's all it is. We know that we're not going to get anything that you guys promise. We know that the left knows that they're not going to get anything that, they're promised. All anyone does, well, at least on the left, they placate to the activists and piss them off. And at least on the right, shit. Sorry. You guys don't do a damn thing. All you do is just get in the way and slow down the Democrats. And then eventually they just run right over you. And then end up getting everything they want. It's the truth. So yeah, so that's the problem, Republicans. You're the problem. You don't fight for anything, meaning stand up or push back. 60 to 70% of the time, the truth is on your side. But instead of taking the facts and, presenting them to the people, you sit on your hands. Those of us, honestly, from the center to, right of center, we're tired of it. This is why the populist movement is gaining so much steam. Because you refuse to do anything. And those of us in the center, or right of center, is why we're latching on to the populists. Because at least they'll get off their ass and they'll actually, go back at the media. They'll go back at the other politicians. They'll actually bring truth. Bring the receipts. But no, the majority of you won't do it because you're part of the establishment. I'm trying to be serious here, and you guys actually have Roman's ears in frame. And I'm going to leave it in frame because he's my cat and I love him. But anyway. So I think that means it's time for me to close up. So yeah, Republicans, get off your butts. Canvass. Voter registration drives. Actually go into the urban centers. Take your message there. Share the values. Because you'll be surprised. A lot of the urban population want the same thing. Because if you took off that R next to your name and you took that message there, they would fall in love with you. And the Democrats wouldn't win another election. But you won't do it. Because you're afraid. You're afraid that the news might say something bad about you. Might call you a racist or a Nazi or whatever. Fascist. You can't be afraid. You have to campaign in the populous areas. Have to. Otherwise, like I said, you'll never win another election. But who am I? I'm just an old, disgruntled, fat guy in his terrible 40s that's just tired of watching you guys make fools of the rest of us for believing in you. All right, good people. I think that's going to be it. We're going to wrap it up here. So on that, just remember, say your prayers, take your vitamins, be good little Hulksters, and of course, it's the flu season, so make sure you wash your hands. All right, I love yous, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night.